All right. Greetings, everyone. We're now going live. We're now going live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. The topic of this video is going to be the end of Dorsey's Resource channel, the final chapter. I plan on discussing where I've been lately, what's been going on. This may be my very last video, so appreciate you all. But as usual, before we get into things, I'm still going to give a disclaimer. This video is for informational, educational purposes. This video is not intended to be legal advice in case I go over things in that regard. This is not legal, financial, political. Um, Keep in mind, these are simply my opinions. I always encourage everyone to always do their own homework and research into the matter being discussed. This information is never to be construed as any type of legal advice or financial advice. Any event you feel you need to do so, it is encouraged you seek a competent professional at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information being presented. Please keep in mind, everyone is responsible for their own mental, financial affairs in their own capacity. All rights are reserved. Now let's get into things. This is the topic of the video. This is the end of Dorsey's Resource channel. The final frontier is the topic of the video. I want to thank all those who continue to follow me, that have supported me throughout the years, throughout this journey. By the way, those who continue to rock with me all this time, you are much appreciated, definitely. And I just wanted to give you all an update. Once again, if you check my previous video, this is going to be a little bit of a rehash, and I plan on, hopefully, if I don't forget, to go over an important message from someone that I followed a very long time. I don't want to say their name yet before I get into that, but this is like a warning. This is basically the final chapter. That's why I titled the video "The End of Dorsey's Resource Channel, The Final Frontier." So here's what's going on to bring you all up to speed in case you all were not aware. My second channel, as my backup channel, when I got off work the morning of May 31st, I noticed I was still up. Sometimes after I get off work, I'll stay up for several hours before I'll pass out. I'll go to sleep or whatever. And I checked my email and I got a notification saying that YouTube had completely removed my second channel. That was Dorsey's Resource Channel 2. And somehow my larger channel, which I'm speaking to you all now, that is still available, but I can't log into my back office anymore. It's still up. So I don't know, as a result, what they could do down the road. I do have the majority of all my videos on this channel backed up. By the way, in case you're wondering, I am on Rumble. If I don't forget, I wanted to encourage you guys, but I didn't want to talk about that right now, to get on other platforms like I have been saying for a long time now, quite a while. I have warned you all, if you go to this main channel, even my feature video, I discuss and actually show through Zoom, I believe it is, I used a screen capture. I know I'm kind of long-winded. I went over the different social media platforms, and some have grown exponentially, by the way, and some are actually new, like TrueSocial.com. That's a lot more new. Rumble has grown tremendously, exponentially, by the way, and I appreciate Rumble. The people over there, don't sell out. Stay in the fight. You guys got to continue to speak up, play your part, by the way. And there's other platforms just in case anything happens. The reason I say that, because evil cabal people that have a lot of money, they're using their wealth for very evil, corrupt purposes. If I have some time to elaborate later in this video, I will touch on that as well. And I've got evidence. I have a friend whose brother worked for George Soros' Open Society Foundation. And he actually showed me while I was on the phone with him that, and even in person, the website, his brother's name, his brother was no longer active. I won't say which state he was in to protect my friend's identity, and his brother, by the way, because I knew him by his government name, he did change his name but he showed me the evidence that his brother had was basically on Open Society's payroll. That's the website, Open Society Foundation. I just recently saw a report in the news not too long ago. This was actual mainstream topic. If you look up what I'm saying, I know sometimes some people say, well, Dorsey, you don't post or show the evidence or the links. And I do that to give you guys homework. Like I mentioned in my disclaimer, if you do your research, you'll see the validity behind what I'm going over is accurate. But this was in the news, and they mentioned Open Society Foundation. That's the main their main organization that pushes what they want to push. You kind of can read between the lines. He turned the operation over to his son. That was a separate news story. You can look that up. That was actually public information. So what I'm going over has already been reported on by the mainstream outlets, by the way, by official media. So this is something that fact check can't say is a lie or didn't happen, like they try to, disprove if you guys read between the lines. But what I go over is highly, highly accurate. So I'm just giving you all that info to look up. But they mentioned recently they laid off a bunch of employees or whatever. But I have a friend. This is to confirm, because people are always saying, what evidence do you have or whatnot when I tell these different stories, or what proof? And I have a close friend, this is somebody that I know personally, I've known for a very long time. Now, I won't say how long. And they confirmed to me the proof. What I had been talking about for years, that Black Lives Matter, what happened with that was created. It was never our movement. Even Lord Jamar said in an interview with Vlad TV, he said that some years ago. All this stuff was planned out. Like, if I have time to go over my warning, by the way, towards the end. But what happened, this main bigger channel, the reason I titled this video, The End of Dorsey's Resource Channel, the final chapter, this channel I'm speaking to you all directly through, has been my main channel, but somehow I didn't understand when I first got into YouTube. This became a brand account, and I guess I created it under my smaller channel, but my smaller channel for a number of years was not active, was actually my main channel. And I was trying to figure this thing out like a couple years ago, how to separate it, because I feared just this very thing would happen. And sure enough, it did, but it answered my question. I thought they would take both channels down together, but this is a warning. They could potentially still do that. So this is why I'm giving this is kind of a warning to you. This may be one of my very last videos. I can't say for sure, but maybe one more. But this is like a warning, potentially. So I am on Rumble. Once again, I do have the majority of the videos backed up over here. By the way, remember, I had once again been mentioning to you all, and let me say, technically, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican, even though I have discussed politics other than sovereignty or redemption education. I prefer to call it. I don't claim to be a sovereign citizen. None of those made up terms. Remember, those are umbrella terms the mainstream media, the powers that be, use to attempt to discredit people looking into this type of information. It's an umbrella term, like these trigger words they create out there, like vaccine deniers, election deniers, all that. The stuff like that with you can't use the two terms that are separate, have two separate meanings. Sovereign means to be self-governed, to be independent. Citizen is a subject, a slave. You can look it up. You can't use those two words together. So it's an oxymoron contradiction, which I've already stated that years ago in videos, and I've talked about this amongst large audiences when I was invited to those Discord calls when that TDA movement broke out. If some of you all remember that or know about that, back in summer of 2017 going into 2018. So we are already past that. Just keep in mind, but this is going to lead into what it's a warning they are planning. Someone I listened to, a radio talk show host, I've been a long time listener of, by the way, and I listen to tons of other people. By the way, I want to say there's people that try to stereotype when somebody mentions they listen to someone. People try to box them in a category. You can't do that with me. I've been told by some of my smartest friends, and I consider my smartest friend in the world, one of my smartest friends that I've known years ago. I don't throw his name out there, but when I do mention real names, it's to show credibility. A friend that I've known, both his grandmothers at one time used to live down the street from me, part of Detroit where I grew up. Even though he had connections to the east side, I lived mostly on the west side my entire life. By the way, just to give you a backstory, but my friend Tarmel Daniel, by the way, who I haven't been around in quite a while. By the way, he said this about me years ago. This is on my behalf, and he wasn't the only person that said this. They told me that I absorbed a lot of information when he was trying to, at the time, I was part of a rap group with him many years ago. I had moved to Florida at one time. I was connected to the group. We just never got signed by a major record label. We were in talks with Bad Boy Records, that's Diddy. We were also in talks with So Def Records, from what he shared with me privately at the time. And there was a manager based out of New York that he was dealing with. I've never been, actually, it's funny, I was directly part of the group, but I've never been to New York before. But him and the other member, Marcel Brown, and I remember the other guy, Bird. I don't know Bird's full name, but they used to go out there to New York quite a bit. They were out there back and forth. He taught me about a lot about the industry, the director in the group, how they do brand deals, stuff like that. I learned years ago. The group that I was part of, they did a song with NDRE too, by the way. We were getting up in that space, but there's very competitive on a side note, by the way. But he said this about me many years ago, to stay on topic, that they felt that I would excel in the computer field, where he went into, and much praise, much success to him. I wish him well these years later. I saw him a couple years ago, and he invited me out, him and his wife, to where they now are. And it was nice meeting them, seeing them again, and catching up. I'd like to catch up again sometime down the road, but that's neither here nor there. But just in reference to, there's people that have mentioned, and he worked President Obama's campaign, by the way. Some years back, his grandfather had ties to the city of Detroit at one time, who I found out I didn't really know. I think he mentioned to me when I had saw him a couple years ago that he had passed away, and I didn't realize that. And then I looked it up and saw it online. He was one of the powerful figures in the city of Detroit. By the way, rest in peace to Raymond Solomon, by the way, who I knew as well, senior, who worked down at the Wayne County building, by the way. And they knew about me back then. Some things I won't, kind of go into detail. They used to tell me some things, but that's the reason I brought him up, to show credibility when I do mention real people that I know. Sometimes I don't. I have another friend that's in the IT, information technology field, and they were basically, what they were saying about my skill set, my ability. I have the ability to, unlike a lot of people, I didn't think anything. It was normal to me where I could take a hold of a lot of different information. And I was piggybacking off of, I wasn't getting off topic of the social media sites, where I was letting you know this radio talk show host that he is considered controversial by some, but many have woken up. And I have also purchased his products throughout the years. I've promoted his website. I've never met him personally before. I've never been paid by him personally. By the way, just because people will ask you that. But me personally, I've seen the evidence. I've met people. Some people I met say they don't like him. Some people said that this radio talk shows, and you can read between the lines. I'm talking about, say the name Alex Jones. I've been a long time listener, but once again, I follow other people. I have purchased other products. People connected to the conscious community, the black conscious community, because you have pro-black people that try to play the game like, oh, you're not, like they try to take your black card away from you. And I'm not literally meaning black card about the Federal Reserve black card, but your social credibility within the black community. There's been a lot of that manipulation goes on. And when I was having a conversation with Michael Imhotep from the African History Network years ago, who I noticed lately within the past year or two has been a guest on Roland Martin's show, who I do follow from time to time. Some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with politically. I follow a lot of people, Rashad Ritchie as well. I have balance, by the way, I think is critical. And I know my real history, accurate history. I'm very well studied when it comes to the history. It was the Republican Party that was the abolitionists that freed the slaves, by the way, that fought to end slavery. And this is historically accurate. It was Democrats who tried to re-enslave people. I found out This may not sound comfortable to some, but this is accurate. Fact check. I've looked this up, researched it thoroughly. I found out under President Obama, when he was in office, the Democratic National Convention, which I didn't know had historical records, and they had deleted this information. When I had found out, researched it on my own, you can look it up if it's still available. Google might have scrubbed it because it puts them in a negative light. But the Democrats had heavy ties to the racist white nationalists. They try to portray as just solely the Republican Party. That is the party that, within the black community, they push that narrative because they've controlled my own people stereotypically. There are black people who are awake, who have been awake for a very long time. So I'm not saying some, but there's a majority or segment of the community, because I'm careful not to stereotype. But there's many that I know privately who are really awake, not woke, but I would say very awake to the truth, to the accurate truth, and can prove it. I know historians. I have a friend. He wants to keep it low key. He can speak over 20 languages. He can break down the meanings of people's last names, their lineages, where they come from. That's why I'm not impressed when I come across Hebrew Israelites and other people who tell me about this Dane Calloway guy or the Flat Earth people. Flat Earth, I'm not part of that. I was accused of being a Flat Earther. I'm not part of no organization. I'm just very well studied, very well researched. I'm a researcher, investigative researcher, if you look at it like that. But I do forensic research, like the Michigan State Police is connected to forensic labs, for example. If you've heard of forensic science, by the way, they're connected to forensic. There's different types of forensic science. So I do forensic research, meaning I look at things at a very in-depth level, a microscopic level, things on an atomic level. When I brainstorm, my mind goes like a supercomputer sometimes, and I think about things to try to solve cases, mysteries. That's why law enforcement are able to solve crimes and murders, even though they weren't at the scene when a crime has been committed. They use different forms of forensic science research, like what I do and other things, to figure out, maybe over 90% of the cases nowadays, they use DNA evidence to find assailants or prove, which was at one time they didn't have that technology, and now it's led to people even getting exonerated from prison when people have been the wrong people have been locked up, things of that sort, because of the way the legal system works. I'm just kind of going over my skill set, how, not trying to boast or brag, but the level that I'm at. A lot of people, I've been given praise by my sensei, my mentor who trained me in martial arts, even said the similar. It said some other attributes about me with my personal skill that he felt some people did not uniquely have. Now, I have a friend I spoke to earlier today. I won't say the name. I stated to him, I believe he has a photographic memory much stronger than myself, by the way. But I actually did research on myself and found out that I had what was called an autobiographical memories, not to the level that some people that have it, really a superior form of it. But I have like a form of it, of that, by the way. But a good friend of mine who can speak over 20 languages, who I highly admire, he's very humble about it. He doesn't even want people to know. I think he told me some years ago, but he has an excellent memory, is phenomenal. And to me, he's also I rank one of the smartest people in the world that I know. Just, I think personally, the things that he breaks down can break down all religions. There's things that seems like people can't explain them. They can be explained. I'm here to tell you that they can be broken down to the purest form where a 3-year-old or 5-year-old can understand it. That is possible. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. My other friend also studied quantum physics, by the way. So just saying that, because a lot of people, I know that born in this world, come from different walks of life and are only taught to the degree that the school system or educational system that they learn. They could be really highly intelligent, have a high IQ, but if they're only learning certain types of information, for example, that's going to brainwash them or keep them at a certain capacity or to the level that their parents indoctrinated them with, and they're conditioned, they're only going to be at that level of conditioning where some people are able, what they call red pill. That's the difference between red pilled and blue pilled. I was red pilled many years ago. I'm highly red pill, highly intelligent, and red pilled is those people I've met that don't buy the mainstream narrative, the BS. They know the truth. So I'm going to get to the warning. And once again, the topic of this video, in case you're joining me, I'm discussing, this is the end of Dorsey's resource channel, the final frontier. This is the last chapter. One of maybe my last video, guys, just to give you all a heads up. This channel was under my secondary channel, and I can't figure out how to separate it, by the way. And I've tried to reach out to YouTube. I'll have to try again, and I lost the several appeals. I did reach out to them on my Twitter handle because I heard from people who were successfully able to have their channels restored, you needed to have get a live review from an actual human, because they're using artificial intelligence, of course, to review videos that from channels they've removed, by the way, which is easier for them because there's so many people. They don't have the manpower for, I think, to deal with, so many channels. But we do know that there's been whistleblowers. There was a Google whistleblower named Zach Voorhees, who used to work for Google, who came out and explained some years ago with YouTube, which is owned, controlled by that super conglomerate corporation, what they were doing to target certain channels, not just conservatives, but channels or things that they don't deem, new, accurate, or that don't fit the narrative. The narrative is brainwashing propaganda, and he exposed that. And he was even SWAT team. If you can look him up or find his story, you might want to go on BitChute, which is an independent web hosting platform like Brighteon or Band.video. You have other web hosting platforms, like I mentioned, Rumble. I saw he was interviewed by someone recently I would like to check out when I get a chance. I think Mel K. She puts out good work, so much information to keep up with. There's a lot of people out there. They're patriots, people who love America, just love freedom, because the globalists, I hate to be honest, I'm being straight up with you all. I have no way to put it to you in a more bubblegum and flowers or milk and honey type of way to patch this up. This is the reality. The globalist ruling class elite, which includes William Gates, aka Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, who's in on this part of the real Illuminati. They're connected to. Some of these people are figureheads for the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. They use the secret societies, by the way. If you wonder how those work, many lawyers, judges have to become Masons before they become lawyers or judges. That's why the connection with the police officers, many of them are fraternal order police. By the way, that's the connection with Freemasonry. But I'm not trying to also, don't misconstrue, cast all people who are members of these organizations in a negative light. You do have people who are honestly good people that are trying to help humanity. Some people are caught up in these things that they're not fully aware of. A friend of mine that I discovered on my own many years ago actually took me under his wing. I won't go into the details. He was actually scared. This is a true story at the time. And, I was going to say a little bit more, but when I asked him, I was able to pick up on the code words because I'm highly intelligent and I learned about the Illuminati, the ruling class. And I didn't understand it in that form years ago through a relative of mine. When I studied, if you've ever heard of the Bible Prophecy Club, with Stan Johnson, who's still around. He's hosted Lindsey Williams, other guests before that have spoken before the Bible Prophecy Club. Dimitri Duduman, some of the names. Ken Peters, I remember one of the names from years ago. Chuck Youngbrandt, who was a biblical prophet. By the way, my relative took me to see Dimitri Duduman years ago. We went to go see Chuck Youngbrandt, which is a very powerful prophet. Some of these videos are still up. And they talked about the New World Order, what's coming. So this is why this video is also a warning. I'm going over really powerful, potent information with you all that I don't normally talk about or go over this in depth. Because, like I say, this is a warning. This might be one of my last videos. I don't know, because I can't log into my back office, by the way, with my bigger YouTube channel, which is connected under my other channel. And I will let you guys know down the road if I decide to create a whole new channel. I planned on doing something differently, having a separate brand that's not even related to this information at all, by the way. But if where I want to do a separate channel down the road that will basically be like a rehash. But I was warned as well to get on other platforms like I've shared with you all, like Rumble, BitChute. But I spend a lot of time working. You know, I work in the security field. This type of career is very demanding. In case you're not aware, I have to tell relatives and friends, people that they need us around the time of the holidays. So I didn't realize around the time of the 4th, one of my schedules, I had worked 7 days straight. Now, I'm not complaining. Things have just recently died down. They had a special accountant. They had just hired somebody. So I actually got several days off in a row to recuperate, by the way, which I appreciate. But at the same time, sometimes things, you know, are on short notice when they need people. I saw a documentary that said that security jobs were like almost kind of like the equivalent of the Secret Service, by the way, which can be demanding, stressful, because you work in certain types of fields. And I'm a supervisor now. I'm not just a regular guard at an account anymore. I have to travel back and forth from the east to the west side of the city, doing my patrols and things that are required, just to give you guys a heads up. So there's more responsibilities, which I'm aware of, just to put it out there. So that's why I'm not able to always, be before you guys in a timely manner or during the day, or come up with I never came up with like a routine schedule whenever I would do videos. I kept it open like that for these particular reasons. So just bear with me real quick, but hold on. So this is why this video is a warning. The final frontier, the last chapter, the final chapter of Dorsey's resource. This is the end. So I won't probably be doing videos before you all for a while. I had a Zoom membership, by the way. I wanted to do an account screen capture to go more in depth to share some things with you all, but I'm not sure if I'll have enough time because that's getting ready to expire, and I didn't want to renew my membership under the particular account that I had at the time. I did get a message notification from them, so that's why I used StreamYard. So I still have the ability for only this channel to go live. But once again, to let you all know, like, I can't log into my back office anymore because the email address that I used was linked to the channel that YouTube banned. And even though I appealed it, they didn't give me the exact reason why they took away my channel. So maybe down the road, I'll be able to find that out. By the way, they just sent the message. They gave like their own message in the email, but it's broad. It wasn't specific in terms of what did I specifically violate. And I didn't see any warnings, any notices that were given prior. They just said I had too many violations, and they mentioned something else. And I just think that's cruel when they allow other channels, other people out here that don't talk about truth to power, that don't talk about powerful educational information like I've done, or things that can help people like I've mentioned in sovereignty, redemption education, empowering information. But they allow these other channels to be monetized and I found out one guy talks about gangster life, thugism, street gangsters selling drugs. They celebrate the drug dealers, the rappers as heroes. And he mentions he makes $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Ridiculous. But I talk about something educational or other things that can wake people up that's actually dealing with what's coming down the road. By the way, they're just stalling out, but they have some things planned, best believe, and they did attempt to do some stuff during COVID. You guys got to understand that. I'm gonna go over that information. I haven't forgot. They're in my notes. But I just find it, strange and just not fair that YouTube, and which leans primarily liberal politically, that always teaches tolerance of other people and being, what do you call it? Being kind and equality and fairness, but they're not being fair. They're not practicing equality. This is discriminatory practices where my channel and many others I'm speaking on behalf of have been targeted and not allowed and other people have been able to make thousands of dollars. None dare call, my friend says, none dare call it a conspiracy. Allow this, so this is like a rant at this point in the video. They're allowed to be monetized and make all this money talking about the criminal life. Now, I'm not saying, because I pay attention to some of that stuff, I'm not going to sound like, I'm, holier than thou or whatever, because I keep up with things. But these people do this, talk about this stuff 24/7. Like this is important news. And they don't talk about the other information that's important and empowering people's lives. Or I've done videos talking about health, supplements, I take things. Well, this one guy mentions, and he's one of a few that makes all this money talking about gangsterism and keeping up with the rapper Lil Baby and what Lil Baby or Lil Durk did and all of this. And they make $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Think about that. But they won't let me, or other channels of people talk about what we want to talk about, which is a blatant dishonor of freedom of speech. And if you need any more evidence, look at that rule Supreme Court did not too long ago, where they mentioned the Biden administration can't meet with social media companies because and other government agencies, certain ones. This is an actual article. This was ruled on recently. In case you didn't see this in the news, this backs up what I've been telling you guys for a long time, because people would try to rebuttal what I was saying. They would say, oh, Dorsey, these platforms like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, they can regulate speech because of their platform. No, they registered as public utilities. They're supposed to honor freedom of speech. It's expressly clear in the First Amendment. It's blatantly clear. And Mark Zuckerberg, who's a globalist, like Bill Gates, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, I call them, is no different. These people, you got to learn, understand, all the shit that they talk about Trump, Zuckerberg was kicking indigenous people off the land in Hawaii. And his recent reports have come out, he's building some type of underground subterranean villa there, like they're getting ready for something. Could be a nuclear attack, some speculating. These are coming from actual engineers, by the way. This is accurate information. Not only does Alex Jones report on stuff like this, but you have the Stu Peters show. A lot of other people, like I mentioned, I'm very well balanced. And I'm accurate. I'm not crazy. I just turned 44 years old earlier this year, back in February. And, mama didn't raise no fool. I didn't come out my womb. I had to, learn some things, but I'm very well studied. And the information I talk about is highly accurate. You can research it. Look up the Stu Peters show on Rumble. It will give you highly accurate information. Now, these names I'm throwing out here, I'm just saying as reference. When I encourage you guys, I put my disclaimer. When I do my research, my homework, I compare notes. Because people ask me, what evidence do you have? I do look up the articles and things that post, like with fact check always tries to discredit stuff like the Pizzagate thing. YouTube removed my videos. That's real. But you can find information on these other platforms and look at in the public media what was reported on with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. Then you had the Nexium sex cult that happened. Look how it came out in the news. That guy that was the gymnast who was molesting those girls was stabbed down in a prison somewhere. That was a high profile case. You had the guy, what's his name? Jared Fogle, that did the Subway commercials. Remember him? He was a pedophile. He was exposed. Before Hunter Biden's laptop, you had Anthony Weiner's laptop. Excuse me, by the way, that if you remember, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, it was reported on by the independent media. She threatened the NYPD police, who were going to release a press conference, that she was going to hold some of them accountable for the Eric Gardner situation if they did a press conference. It's a form of blackmail to not go over that information, so that stayed concealed, because on that laptop, it was discovered. Remember, he was subpoenaed. He had that incident. If you knew about Anthony Weiner, he was married to Huma Abedin, who worked Hillary Clinton's campaign, by the way. Then you had the guy, Seth Rich, that got killed at the DNC National Convention that Julian Assange mentioned was his leaker, that he was the whistleblower, aka leaker, but secretly, but he mysteriously was killed. Come on now. This is Democrats covered this up, did this. All this BS they have going after Trump, and they've done, I can, there's a laundry list. I can go over far worse scandals. Obama claims he had a scandal-free presidency, by the way. Scandal free. What happened with the lowest learner tax situation? Here's some remnants of that. How about when Dr. Ben Carson spoke at the prayer breakfast and said he was contacted by the White House because Obama didn't like what he said about the health care, the so-called Obamacare Affordable Care Act at the time. Think about it. Ben Carson was a highly respected person, I remember years ago, amongst black liberals in the black community before they found out or he was a Republican. People became more politically aware because of all this thing when Trump ran for president and stuff. He gets backlash. But I remember specifically, including a relative who hated Trump, but was a big fan because they were telling me about Dr. Ben Carson years ago. That's how I knew about him. And they even came up, he even came up to their job in Southfield, Michigan, from what I understand. I won't say the name of which company, but I find that mighty funny that he becomes enemy number one amongst a certain number of people in the black community. And he received an award, even though I'm not a fan of Bush, under the Bush administration, for separating two Siamese twins, which is a remarkable act, a remarkable feat for someone to go all the way in that field. Is a very prestigious field to become a doctor. And he has humble beginnings. True rags to riches, humble beginnings, and became a neurosurgeon, but gets disrespected, discredited, and all this. And then Obama comes in office. I remember a friend of mine pointed this out. They said Obama remember he didn't want to get rid of his BlackBerry phone when he took office. Then they gave him Secret Service. They gave him like a government secured one or whatever. But they mentioned him and Michelle. Their net worth was around $4 million. But they said Obama is worth close to $1 billion now. So he started off, they mentioned, remember Hillary Clinton back then, she was campaigning against him. That was a real bitter campaign. She was actually the one that released the birther information. It wasn't Trump. Found out she paid, her and John McCain's camp paid Wayne Madsen, who used to work for the National Security Agency, who was an investigative journalist. And he doesn't like Trump, by the way, in case you're wondering. He was a guest on Alex Jones's program. But this is true facts. This is where this information came from. Who else can give you the historical context like I just gave you? That shows you how brilliant I am. I don't try to brag, but I'm giving you accurate information that the mainstream media sometimes is not even aware of, because I follow the independent media, which reports accurate information. So I'm giving you the source. So Hillary Clinton's camp, she ran a contentious campaign because my friend mentions how his mother-in-law loved Hillary more so than Obama when she was competing against Obama during that campaign year. She was in love with Hillary, and they were mad. It was people were mad, and Hillary was upset because she didn't want to take, she wanted the top position. She didn't want to be Secretary of State. And what about that Benghazi incident that happened where Ambassador Chris Stevens was murdered along with several Navy SEALs? Well, let's go about the scandal with the murder of Justice Antonin Scalia. The liberals tripping about the Supreme Court. What happened with Scalia, Obama? Barry Soetoro? What happened? The murder of Justice Antonin Scalia. Yeah, you talk about you had a scandal-free presidency. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. So I'm just saying, I'm not making a case, but who would survive that level of scrutiny that Trump has gone under with, they do an audit on any of these people I named, who would survive that? And presidents, by the way, at one time were allowed declassified files. That shows you how they're turning on him because they know he's going to prosecute their ass if he gets back in office. He ain't playing pity pat no more with these people because he could have, remember when he first won, his daughter Ivanka was good friends with Chelsea Clinton. And the word was out that Chelsea Clinton was begging Ivanka for her dad, who was Trump, not to prosecute her mother when he took office, and he didn't the first time around. But he realizes how evil the deep state, fucking criminals, secret society, Illuminati Masons, how evil and sadistic these fucking people, child molesters, are. And back to the incidences. You had Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. You had the Nexium sex cult in Hollywood. This was mainstream media, reported on by your own liberal-controlled media, CBS News. Robin Roberts. You had what's his name, the Prince of the Wales and England, Prince Andrew. Remember he paid the lady off. You have all these incidences, huh? And these people are still walking scot-free. What happened to the Durham report? I heard, the Durham report, there was a cover-up because they were the mainstream media was so busy reporting on some submersible Dollar General submarine that went under. They were so busy reporting on that, or the fake scandemic and other things that they put to the top, like that's the most important media people should be seeing. But they're not telling you about the Durham report or the other stuff. That's the other scandals that have gone on, have happened. By the way, what about this scandal when Obama used campaign violations that was over 250,000? Remember that? A friend of mine reminded me about that. Compare that to the Stormy Daniels situation. Oh, he's still scot-free though. So it's rules for thee, but not for me. As a friend of mine tells me. So it's rules for thee, but not for me. So if you're going to go one way, just keep in mind, these same people that back him or secretly, that can come all right back on you. That's karma, baby. So don't think that that can't come back, because it needs to be all the way across the board. If you're going to scrutinize him like that, then all these other people need to be admitting themselves to the jail cell for all the corruption and pedophile rings, human trafficking, and drug trafficking that they do. Oh, I forgot Operation Fast and Furious, which continued from the Bush administration into the Obama Eric Holder administration. The heroin, fentanyl, the border thing. At one time, they didn't tell you, if you guys forget. I remember when this was reported on, they said at one time Obama deported more illegal immigrants than Trump did. Yeah, as crazy as it may sound, I remember it was reported on because Detroit is a border city next to the capital, one of the capitals, Dearborn and Hamtramck, but Dearborn is a main hub for the Arabic community. I remember, because I said, what is this controversy some years ago? They were all these people at the airport talking about this when Obama was president, saying they're stranded, they can't get to where they were getting to. He deported people too. See, they just play this narrative game where people don't understand the politics and things. Now, this is coming from somebody who, I'm not a Republican. I have not been a registered voter since 2004, but I'm somebody who's politically aware, who's doesn't trust the mainstream media that knows they're not accurate. They do a lot of lying. They don't tell the truth. American people need to do research and do a lot of their own critical thinking, brainstorming. Like your teacher in elementary school would separate you after you read a book, would break the class up into different segments. That's how you would take a test to build your thinking skills up. Or how well did you absorb the information that you read? Did you retain the information? This doesn't take rocket science. You don't have to have a high IQ or be brilliant to know the information I just went over, by the way. So this is part of my rant too. So, but yeah, none dare call it a conspiracy. YouTube will allow all these other channels to make all this money, but I talk about real stuff and other channels, not just mine. We're not allowed to talk about what we want to talk about because they call it hate speech. Remember, hate speech is speech they don't agree with. I did say a few cuss words, but I normally, most of my videos, I didn't use profanity or things. I talk about things in some instances that may not have been favorable, but this is what they do. Think about it. One guy, he talks about the rappers Lil Durk. He's got people talk about the Illuminati party that happened with some guy named Michael Rubin in California. There's gossip stuff. That's not even talking about the coming food shortages, or telling you to buy silver or gold like I've went over, or telling you to buy Ripple XRP that just went up a day and a half ago, or whatever. They won their lawsuit, or tell you to prepare for the New World Order. But they reward these people that talk about nonsense. I'm not saying I still pay attention, to be honest, but how important is that in your life? And how is that going to help you down the road when these calamities happen? Because we don't realize we have it so good right now in America. A friend of mine that's very well studied, who I spoke to earlier, just told me that the globalists, the reason they want to target America, it represents we had too much independence. And because he told me our media over here didn't report that in Hong Kong, they had flown American flags some years ago and said they don't want to allow this to happen again. And he knows someone personally. I didn't know this. He may have mentioned it before, that was from China. That's a Uyghur. I guess they're the Muslim version of the Chinese. And they put those people they've identified years ago in concentration camps, and they harvest their organs. There used to be videos on YouTube that exposed this. I talked about this a long time ago. Other channels such as Lisa Haven, in case you're wondering if this is accurate, cross-reference to see if I'm telling the truth, which I am. But I know there's people always out there saying, you know, so I'm giving you the reference to research and get the accurate information, multiple sources, by the way. And he said, so this is actually someone he knows. He explained to me earlier when I spoke to him for a while that the Uyghur community, which I've heard about, they practice Falun Gong, which, you know, if you know anything about the history of China, they outlawed certain traditional practices many years ago. Mao Zedong, General Mao, who studied in the West, was trained at Harvard. In case you don't know, the CIA, FBI high levels are involved in training a lot of these psychopaths. By the way, they create a lot of these false flag events, and that's an actual military term. In case anyone on here is not aware, false flag is actually a military term. That's not conspiracy theory. Look it up. Or then, you know, you might not be able to find out because some of the stuff is, they may have declassified it. I can't say, but I found out false flags is actually a term that is used by the military. Or I can't say or remember which particular branch, but I did find that out not too long ago. That is, and they do stuff like that. Now, I don't say all instances when somebody goes shoots up a school or a church or grocery store, God forbid, an active shooter. I'm not saying all those situations there's a Manchurian candidate or they want somebody. I don't know. I never really, there was channels that used to cover that, and YouTube highly censored those channels that exposed, in some instances, I do believe there was, in my personal opinion, crisis actors, which there was evidence behind certain countries, not just here. There were ads put in newspapers and stuff for people to get jobs as crisis actors for events and stuff that they stage. Like I heard allegedly that Parkland incident in Florida, and mighty funny, not a coincidence, they were using kids as props to try to come after the guns. Again, you know, which has been their agenda for a long time. They want to take the guns away. You know, and that's a whole nother topic discussion within itself, because I hear allegedly the globalists, when they want to murder people. They don't want the American people, whether you black, white, yellow, blue, green, whatever, to be able to defend themselves. This is what this boils down to. They also are getting into artificial intelligence. Look up Yuval Noah Harari with the World Economic Forum, who states they no longer need humans anymore. He says, look this up. He says, we no longer need people. He's a personal advisor to Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, which is connected to the Davos group, connected to Bilderberg, which had a meeting earlier in the year. I found out in Portugal, I believe, in a secluded hotel that had a concrete fence around the whole hotel. And then they had their guards and stuff block off the streets, even ticket people's residences who lived in the area, cars or whatever. This is in Portugal, secretly under the cover, thanks to big shout out to Dan Hicks, an investigative journalist reporter in Canada, who if you go to band.video or madmaxworld.tv, he has other independent media organizations that he links that are partnered with. He's already gone to past phase 2 and trained other people up. So in case anything happens to him, there's other people that will be able to get the information out, warn people what's coming. This actually happened. But to get back, Yuval Noah Harari, look up who Yuval Noah Harari is. He says, we no longer need people anymore. I can't remember all the details. And then Klaus Schwab, look up what Klaus Schwab has a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Talks about, so they're using, you see in certain states like California, they're talking about New York, artificial robots now. My job down the road is going to get replaced. Policing through robots, security. Look up Boston Dynamics. That's developing right on YouTube. I went to DeVry Institute of Technology years ago in Columbus, Ohio. I didn't understand at the time when my mother told me that MIT was like the Ivy League school of the technical schools. That was basically, MIT was like the Harvard of those technical schools. DeVry was a tough school. By the way, they were also an accelerated school where you could get your degree at the time. They were pushing within 3 years, and they got sued. Stuff happened, by the way, some years later. Then they became DeVry University. I went to the Columbus campus before I transferred to Detroit College of Business, which got bought out by Davenport University, where I received my associate's degree. I took credits towards my bachelor's. I didn't finish, but I did get my associate's. So I transferred. So I have experience at a technical school where, I was familiar with the different programs there. I changed my major several times. You had computer information systems. I had gone into it one time. Double ET, I was originally, that's electrical engineering before I changed my major from that. And they told us in our orientation, this is back in high school, me and my my fellow alumni, also my college roommate, Michael Grant, many years ago, we went through orientation at the time before we officially got down there. You know how you go through that process. You take a trip down there and they woo you in and all nice to you. And you wake up and smell the coffee. Like my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Height, used to say many years ago, and you see what this is really about. And they said, you guys are going to have to build a robot. And they had these little robots behind the glass. And I said, whoa, this is some heavy stuff that we're going to, in order to graduate, they told us back then, this is in 1997. And we had to start early because during that time, I explained to a friend of mine, Detroit Public Schools had started something where you had to make up for the days that were missed, the snow days. So they created something called an extended school year. And they went into some of the history about that, the reason why kids have the summer off, because years ago, people had more children. A lot of people were farmers and they needed that time to help till the land. The reason they had so many children to help farm. But, nowadays people are prone to move out of state, go different places, but used to be more of a community. So they were telling us, but they created something called an extended school year. But when we started at DeVry, they went by trimesters. So we had to start early. So we literally had maybe a week or 2 weeks off before we were already down there starting classes in the summer for that summer semester. I remember our recruiter was Chuck Sargent, by the way, was our recruiter. Same as my friend Tarmil at the time I mentioned years earlier with his friend Kevin that went to King High School. I warned them about DeVry, how I had already gone there. They didn't know, but they think he eventually transferred, maybe got his degree from somewhere else. You got the popularity of a lot of these online universities. He might have gotten his degree from. I think he was going to Kaplan at one time. I don't remember. I think he did eventually get his degree, but I warned him and Kevin, who went to King some years ago, about DeVry, what they did to lure you in, and they got sued years later. By the way, they were in the movie documentary called College Conspiracy. If you can still find it on YouTube, you can watch it for free. It's called College Conspiracy, and it exposed DeVry Institute of Technology, which used to be is now called DeVry University, but used to be called DeVry Institute of Technology. It was exposed, by the way. Just you can look up the evidence. I did see it the last time I checked. It was put out, sponsored by the National Inflation Association. Put this video out that exposed this type of information. By the way, so I just wanted to come before you all and let you all know. I'm gonna read the comments. This may be one of my last videos. Again, to give you all a heads up, the topic of this video is the end of Dorsey's resource channel. The final frontier is why I'm kind of ranting a little bit, because of this stuff I had to go through with YouTube and what they're doing. And just blatantly laying out the agenda. But I'm going to go over, before I read the comments, I've got to catch up with some of my paperwork. I'm going to go over a warning that was put out recently by Alex Jones. I think it's very important. I told a friend of mine about it earlier today. If you can, go to band.video or madmaxworld.tv. madmaxworld.tv or band.video, and you can Yahoo or Google his name. The reason he has to create these different URL links, because the globalist, the evil cabal, uses these big tech giants to censor people, and they lie. They make up stuff about people to frame people. So you get the real information, by the way, just like I'm speaking actual people. I don't work for NBC. I don't work for WDIV. I don't work for WXYZ that's under ABC, which is owned by Disney, these super conglomerate corporations. Just to give you guys an idea, you're getting authentic information from somebody who researches and reads articles and has been around the block for a minute and has private legitimate sources that have secret security clearances, which I didn't notice originally. I found out years later, by the way. So you're getting accurate information, by the way. So just wanted to I'm get ready to go over this information. He put out once again a final warning. I'm just simultaneously I'm multitasking, doing my paperwork, but this is the reason I'm doing this video, to let you guys know this is one of my last videos, if not. So you're welcome to go ahead, and if you haven't already, big shout out to Currency 365 who supported my channel and done other things. You are appreciated, as well as others. To download, you're welcome to download these videos, archive them, share them, study them, look the information up, research what I go over. I gave you guys, I'm gonna go over these independent web media sites. You have Rumble. I went over earlier, by the way. You have BitChute. If in case you're not familiar, Rumble and Brighteon are video web hosting platforms, by the way. In case you're not aware, Rumble and Brighteon are video web hosting platforms. So they're similar to YouTube, and Brighteon has something like, how YouTube has YouTube TV. Brighteon has now upgraded. That's Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, who's also been a supporter, assisted covering Alex Jones and his and warning the people. So he has contributors. They're called, technically, these are contributors. I'm an influencer. Some consider micro influencer. It would be maybe a more technical term to describe me, because my channel never got as big as some other channels, or never was allowed to, because that whistleblower I mentioned, Zach Voorhees, some years ago, exposed how Google, aka YouTube, was censoring and messing with the algorithm to not allow other channels to grow. But he has contributors who help out. So Brighteon.com has Brighteon TV. Also look up Gab.ai. Gab.ai also has Gab.tv. Now, the mainstream media will try to tell you these are right-wing platforms. They'll try to say these are a lot of white nationalists or white supremacists on these platforms. You know what Kanye said when he met with Trump at the White House? Some people, especially black people, told Kanye this. You know what they told him? They said, "Oh, Trump is racist. You shouldn't try to meet with him." And you know what I admire what Kanye said to them? You think that's gonna stop me? So I tell you, get on these other platforms. Get the real information, guys. Stop with the bull. A lot of these liberal people, it's people waking up that are liberal to the truth. I'm giving you the real facts. I'm not what they call vaccine denier, as they call some people who, because obviously some people didn't know I've been vaccinated before as a baby, but I didn't trust, because I knew that vaccine, they were pushing the mRNA. Now, I was almost tricked into it originally, to be honest with you guys. And I said, wait a minute, I scratched my head. And after I said, no way, I'm not getting that in my body. And currently, out of my immediate family, out of my mother, my father, my younger brother and sister, because I'm the oldest child out of the three of us, I'm the only one that's not vaccinated. I did not get any of those. I was almost convinced by my friend's wife to get the J&J shot, because that was a viral vector. And I saw how they were blackmailing sports athletes to get them. I remember one of my favorite players, Andrew Wiggins, with the Golden State Warriors. And I figured he was forced to do it. And I probably would have, to be honest, if I was an NBA player, but I would have known. I would have had to pay the money to get it detoxed, to get it out my system. But it was better to not have to go through that, than not get it at all. So I just never got that. Another thing, but this is not about that, but you have these people use these trigger words to call you a vaccine denier. Will say, oh, Alex Jones is racist. Or they'll say, oh, Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. All this BS, or that he's an agent working for the government. If he was an agent, don't you think they would protect him? Like they protect. Look at how Trump, he's not part of the club. The deep state, is the comedian years ago, George Carlin, would say. He's not a member. And he said it's a real big club and you're not in it. Even though Trump has these billions, a lot of money. I don't see him as being a true member of the deep state. Some people will say, oh, Trump is establishment. Oh, really? But if you're establishment like Obama, who did all this stuff I mentioned, Hillary Clinton, I went over Benghazi, Ambassador Chris Stevens that got killed, several Navy SEALs when Hillary was negligent with her emails, how she got 11 CIA officers murdered in China. Yeah, this is facts, happened, even acknowledged at a certain point after she ignored the many requests to subpoenas. James Comey was the only reason he was forced to do a press conference before that contentious election was because it was pressure being put on him by other FBI agents, because remember the field officers in New York, the NYPD, wanted to release that information that was discovered on Anthony Weiner's laptop. This is separate from the Hunter Biden, that's Biden's son incident. And all of a sudden, you don't hear any more information about that. And they dismiss Pizzagate. They tell you, it's Nancy Pelosi and Adam Shifty Schiff says, oh, this Pizzagate people, that's QAnon people. They believe that the world is ran by a elite group of pedophiles who traffic children, and their conspiracy theory. They always make it seem like it's crazy, right? But you have these actual incidences that have actually happened, like Jeffrey Epstein. Remember that? He mysteriously is somehow hung in prison. And our friend mentioned recently, whatever happened to the video footage? What happened to the guards that were that let that happen? Remember that? We didn't hear any more about that. But then you have an escaped guy recently. There's some manhunt going on in Pennsylvania, and they said they're going to hold the people that work at the prison accountable. But maybe because this isn't the same type of situation, you see. But whatever happened to those guards that let Jeffrey Epstein? Remember when they told you it was video footage in that prison, but the footage mysteriously came up missing, and we know what he did. I mentioned Prince Andrew earlier. Remember before the Queen died, she helped pay his settlement with the woman he had the photo with that he adamantly denied he was demoted from when Prince Charles took over. King Charles now. King Charles III took over, and you guys starting to scratch your head and get a point. So do you still, if you're a liberal on here or you vote Democrat, you still trust the mainstream media after what I just mentioned? After all of this evidence? And that's just one incident. His girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, remember she was sued, had a separate case, convicted. Who else? We go on and even in well, I won't really touch on the entertainment industry, music industry, but R. Kelly. By the way, I know it's controversial for some, but hey, you have to admit what goes on. Now, I'm not saying in his situation, I did hear, I don't get into the court legal stuff that he was due process stuff like that was violated. But I was hearing, I believe those women. I watched those women's testimonies and felt it was sincere. Kitty Jones, Lisa Van Allen in New York, the sister McGee girl, her last name. I watched that interview. Faith, I think, what's her name? Faith Rogers. Her father was a pastor in New York. Then I heard about another girl in Florida. I didn't think these were coincidences. By the way, even though he called out allegedly Jay-Z, some other people who's ignoring a paternity suit with the child that simply wants to get, have a DNA test done. With Sean Carter, he's supposed to represent the black community. He's supposed to be pro-black. But you got all these billions, but you got all these, a son out there that doesn't, you don't want to take the DNA test. And bro, with all that money, I would have been took the test. What are you hiding from? You know what I'm saying? So these things, important information, why is it doesn't get only certain information gets talked about? Or there's rules for thee, but not for me. But some people, they'll tell you they make these other people out to be like they're the devil, they're evil when you have this group that's being protected. So my point is, if Alex Jones is an agent, if I really believe that, then he would be protected. He wouldn't have gone through like that so-called case where he had to pay this $1 billion, which I've never heard is so outrageous before. I've never heard. There's a statute of limitations I've seen in Michigan. This is just a witch hunt. And I kept hearing about this. I never saw the video footage that he said this stuff about these alleged children at this school called Sandy Hook, or that I didn't know too much about. I never really spoke too much about it, but I had people, relatives, or people who didn't like him. They would say, "Oh, you know, he said something bad about the Sandy Hook," or because they're trying to make they use children as props. I remember, just like this rapist that Trump is saying he's never met, they're accusing him of. But also remember Justice Roy Moore in Alabama. If you guys, to show you how I pay attention, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a registered voter, by the way. I canceled my voter registration in 2004. I proudly don't vote. And even when the U.S. Census lady came to my apartment, I ignored her. I didn't answer the door. By the way, I didn't fill that out. That's a contract. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a foreign national. I'm not under that corporate contract, by the way. But, you know, I find it mighty interesting, you know, that all these people get these allegations, get accused of stuff, but these other people are never brought to light. But these people are demonized to a very large degree. And then you got these other channels that, like I said earlier, talk about the gangster life, the thug culture, the hood, the streets. You know, my hood is better than yours. My hood can destroy your hood. You know, the ghetto life, and they're able to monetize their channels, make $8,000 to $10,000 a month easily. YouTube is doing that. Fuck YouTube, by the way. Excuse my French. I get passionate sometimes because it's not fair, you know. And I just hope that there's, you know, justice is brought, is served. You know, I like to believe that, you know, because the people that really run this society, we're dealing with really evil people. I'm gonna be straight up. There's good people within our government, but we have a lot of evil people. That's what they describe as the deep state. We have a lot of corrupt people, and a lot of them are part of secret societies and things that are protecting one another. So, you know, I understand that they don't want to see their fellow secret society brother or sister of their chapter or sorrow or brother or sister get indicted. But all this stuff, you got to say, they're coming on Trump with all this stuff, and they've done way far worse. So let's go back to the pedophile thing. I forgot my other train of thought earlier, but you had Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. You had the Nexium sex cult that Richard Branson was connected to. You had this guy that Oprah Winfrey interviewed some years ago named Peter Nygaard, or that had his own island where he had an organ trafficking ring. He would recruit black women, others, to have babies by him, for him, and things. I forget what else they called that, but it's something along the lines. I've seen the video. You can look it up, who he was. Go to band.video, get that information. Peter Nygaard, something like that. But he had a private island, just like Richard Branson was named in that suit, but maybe because he had enough money, he didn't really do any time with the, you know, Allison Mack, the actor. She wasn't at the head of that. She played in that Smallville show that's based off Superman or whatever. She was indicted, and the lady who was the head of that pled guilty with some guy or whatever. You know, you don't hear too much about it. I hear allegedly they're on some type of strike out there. A lot of the actors or writers or whatever. I don't know too much about that. I don't keep up with Hollywood, but you had that incident happen. I remember I mentioned the guy from remember the Subway commercials. Remember he was indicted in a scandal with sex trafficking. You had the guy who so I mentioned the Subway guy. You had the guy that was the gymnast. Remember him with the Michigan State that remember Simone Biles, a lot of other gymnasts with the USA Gymnastics testified against. He was touching on those girls. So how is it Nancy Pelosi, I will ask this question to, and Adam Shifty Schiff and Chucky Schumer, how is the QAnon people, this a conspiracy, when I named actual incidences that have been reported on by the mainstream, your own liberal controlled mainstream media? And there's many other cases, help me out here, people can think of. So this is not no conspiracy theory. I went over factual information, but it's remember with YouTube, with the biasy that they do, hate speech is speech they don't agree with. That's what that is, by the way, just in my opinion. So I'm gonna read the comments. I know, I'm sorry I ranted for a while, but it is for what it is. Let me go scroll back up. Gerald Jokes join the chat. Appreciate you, Gerald. Long time no see. The fist up says together we are one. Says, why are you leaving? Have they snuffed you out as well? Yes. When I went over earlier, this bigger channel is connected under my smaller channel. The email, it won't let me log. I can't log into my back office. The other channel is completely removed. If you go to my older videos in the description box of this channel, where I had second channel, copy and paste, put that link in, it will show channel removed. And then I guess somehow, because this was a brand account and it was under the other channel, which I wasn't really active. I was building it. I was growing it. And they just decided out the blue. They sent me an email one morning. I didn't get any. They're supposed to give you like 3 warning or 2 warnings. And then I got an email saying I had too many violations. We removed your channel. Like, oh, it's good. And then they say, we know this is disappointing. And then they tell you, we, don't want you uploading or whatever on no other channels, which is crazy. But that's what they do. That's YouTube. I went over the laws and stuff already. I've talked about this so much. To answer that question, Together We Stand says, yup, they killed my other channel around the same time I had that channel for a decade. Wow. Job says, God bless you, Dorsey. Appreciate you, Job. Thank you for joining. Bianca Lagardo says, hi, Dorsey. Thank you. Malor says, you stop in the Dorsey's resource channel. Elon Creation says, what? Question mark. Newman says, share the link. Check the links for a lot of these in the description box. Just if you go to Yahoo or Google, I did put, it should upload after this video uploads. If they don't take it down, they put it in the description box. Should have the links. If you are a big influencer, I recommend you have a backup for these other platforms as well. You have other platforms that are like other versions of Twitter, by the way, because I heard Zuckerberg created something that's connected to Instagram called Threads, but I heard allegedly there might be some copyright issues because they mimic or mirror Twitter to a large degree, that they basically Twitter can sue them, by the way. So but just to give you guys an idea, you have Getter, True Social. That's Trump's platform. You have frankspeech.com. I haven't got on Frank's Speech yet. I am on True Social at Dorsey's Resource. I'm at minds.com is another one. Alex Jones has interviewed some of the presidents of people who started these platforms. Andrew Torba with Gab.ai. Big shout out to you. Also have Gab.ai TV, just like Brighteon TV, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. Those are video web hosting platforms. So they can do all the above. They can do Twitter, Facebook, and video, all like 3 in 1. They can mirror all 3. And they're wonderful. They're independent. They don't censor you like YouTube is doing, violating freedom of speech and things, making up BS crap to remove people because they don't agree with your political views. That's what this is about. Remember Hillary Clinton was blaming one of the reasons she lost the election. You remember she couldn't decide after she lost the election to Trump, what was it? Remember, she blamed even Obama at one point. Then she blamed the FBI. It was one thing after another. Then Alex Jones' InfoWars was banned. Which one was it? It was YouTube was banned. Was the reason. Remember that? She lost the election. It was these different reasons. He said, Newman says, can you share the link, bro? That's to answer the question again. Check the description box after the video uploads what I can do. But also I already put gave a brief description in the description box, by the way. So if I don't get to it, but down the road, maybe actually, you know what? I may not be able to, because right now, what I can possibly do, I'm trying to see. I have to figure out because I haven't really mastered this particular platform. But check the description box. Remember, I can't log in to my back office. Keep that in mind. Gerald Judge says, hit the like button. Appreciate you guys. Says Newman said, hit the share button. Wednesday Adams says, hi, Dorsey. Appreciate you, Wednesday, for joining. Thank you. Digger Golden says, so why the end? Question mark. He says, what did we miss? Once again, to give you a rehash, the reason I'm doing this video, the end of Dorsey's Resource, the final frontier. This channel was a brand account, and it was under my backup channel, which was Dorsey's Resource Channel 2. And when YouTube removed that channel, I can't log into the email address. I can only log into my email address, excuse me, but I can't access my YouTube Studio back office because it was linked to that email address. So does that hopefully answer you guys' question? So unfortunately, I won't be able to share the link, but I did give a description in the description box for majority of the independent social media sites. Also check my feature video. When you come to my channel, click on the videos part. I didn't do any YouTube shorts. I just did live videos and regular videos. But if you look my feature video, you know how when you go to a YouTube channel, you have a feature video. And I went over that video, a lot of some of these same independent media sites, maybe a couple other ones that were newer, that weren't around at the time. I just added, like truthsocial.com is new. I am on Dorsey's Resource. If you look me up over there, you can find me. I am on liberal platforms as well. I do have a liberal side. I am on Instagram, IG. I'm at like Dorsey's _ Resource 2019. That's my liberal side. By the way, I'm balanced, guys. So just put it out there. I have both, but I encourage you to get on these other platforms because personally, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a conservative. I'm just for the people. I'm sharing the information to warn people, to empower people. And if you have your own following or group or clique, get on these other platforms as a backup. You can also have your own clique or following over there, just like different car clubs, you know, have their own cliques, you know, for vans, van club, Dodge Charger club, Mustang club. You can go over there and start your own clique or gang or whatever. But just get off, you know, have a backup because Facebook, they don't deserve, and YouTube with all this censorship crap, you know, to be having a monopoly like this. That's why you have antitrust laws that were created. But unfortunately, if we had politicians who were doing their jobs and enforcing the laws as they should be, you know, YouTube wouldn't be getting away with this stuff. The big tech bully they are, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Amazons of the world, Facebooks, they wouldn't be getting away with this crap. But big shout out to Elon for exposing when he took over Twitter, the Twitter files. Look up that information about the Twitter files. You know, it's brought a lot of stuff to light, what they were doing behind the scenes. And Alex Jones covered that, a lot of that, by the way. Aubrey Hansa says, yo, bro, says, why the end? Okay, hopefully got you. Hopefully I explained to you thoroughly enough why this is the end, the final frontier. It's maybe one of my last videos. Like I said, to reiterate, I do have a Zoom account, but my Zoom membership is getting ready to end. I want to bring you guys like maybe one more very powerful screen capture video where I go show you the faces of the elites, but I have to do that quick because I don't want them charging my account. I want to hurry up and, you know, do that, finish that video, and then cancel my membership. I have until the 17th of this month. If hopefully I don't forget, but I'm gonna have to do that probably by no later than maybe this Monday. I think something like that, because today is Saturday the 15th. So Sunday will be the 16th. Yup. So that means I have, unless if they try to charge my account over the weekend, I have to check, see if they tried something slick, try to charge me ahead of time. But maybe that would have to be no later than this Sunday. Then I would have to do that video by, if I do that one last video through Zoom, where I go all in. You guys think I went hard today? Boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. So that's why this is the end pretty much. But I appreciate you all that continue to rock with me, to join me, that stay loyal to me. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, I'll let you know down the road if I do decide to create another Dorsey's Resource, but I'm considering having a separate channel altogether, just rebranding, just doing stuff. Cause I really, sometimes I don't like to talk about this type of stuff. I do have a life. I'm into gaming. I actually got contacted by someone connected to Bethesda Studios for a brand deal, but I haven't responded to the email yet because they basically killed my other channel, which is linked to this channel, and I can't log into my back office, so it's nothing I can do. But they, you know, destroy other revenue that I would be able to generate. This is what they do to you. Notice they go after your money. But once again, these people talk about like that one guy, and I'm not hating on that guy too. understand, that talks about the street life, the gangster life. I'm just saying, because I still do listen to rap. I listen to all types of music, mostly R&B, rap, gospel. I do get into alternative, soft rock, classic rock, stuff like that from back in the day. But notice this guy talks about gangster life, the streets, the rapper Lil Baby, Lil Durk, what's going on, NBA Young Boy, all the street hype, the Young Thug trial case going on in Georgia with what's the guy Gunna, all this gossip stuff. That when I've talked about buying silver, buying gold, empowering yourself, becoming financially independent, empowering information, prepping, survival, getting prepared for this planned power outage that's coming. But they let all these other channels that don't give you good meat and potatoes talk about nonsense. Oh, they let that stuff. They rock with that. You know what I'm saying? Just to me, very hypocritical. By the way, that's all I'm saying, guys. It's not. YouTube is very biased, very, very biased, and this crap needs to end. I hope somebody has deep pockets, is very wealthy, can really sue YouTube or figure out a way to really come after them for violating freedom, because we already have laws on the books. By the way, I mean, I want to see them go down. Like, remember, Facebook got sued. That's why they had to change the name to Meta. Remember that? And Google got sued as well, guys. They found out that there was a group of people that sued Google. Remember, the Chrome browser was tracking people's cookies still, because I use that incognito browser. And there was a lawsuit that was filed. They found out, and Google had to settle. They lost that lawsuit. Look it up. So these big tech bullies, they don't appear to be totally impenetrable or invincible. But somebody out there with deep pockets, a high roller that's very wealthy, needs to take one for the team and needs to sue the crap out of YouTube. So I'm tired of this crap. It's not fair. It's biased. That's actually the Russian meddling, where they told you it was the Russians that interfered with the election while Hillary lost. Remember, that was another reason she blamed losing. They made up this thing called Russian meddling, which is some BS, by the way. So understand that, guys. Hold on real quick. I got to get this gate. But once again, I'm just saying this is the end. I appreciate you all who continue to rock with me, who stayed loyal to the channel. That's why I've gone over a lot of high-powered information I don't normally talk about. And it's kind of a rant, too, because I've been pissed off at YouTube for a while and Facebook for this stuff. That's why I haven't even logged into my personal Facebook account. The only reason I log in sometimes, mainly, I'm actually will be more active on Instagram. And they purchased Instagram some years ago. A little bit more active. I do check my gram from time to time. By the way, my TikTok is under a ghost, under my another name. I didn't really create a TikTok account. I used it mainly for something else for my studies. And I've also been on Telegram a lot. Different groups I was invited to on there, by the way, just so you all know. So I'm gonna go over this information about the final warning that Alex Jones gave, and then I'm gonna close things out, because I've been before you guys for a while, but I want to give you all a heads up. That's why you all haven't heard from me in a while. I haven't been able to log into my back office, which is YouTube Studio. Somehow this channel, which is it was linked to my backup channel that got banned. I guess when I created YouTube, I didn't understand it at first. I did everything on my own. And years ago, when I created this channel, I guess it was a add-on, which I shouldn't have done this through my other channel, but it's confusing the way it's set up. So I had to I went through the tutorials. I thought I almost figured it out, but I haven't been able to figure out yet how to get this channel unlinked. I tried to maybe switch the email around my goals. I would have to switch it to a different email. But it has, there's another part of Google where I forget what it's called. It's another account, Google account, that's not technically YouTube. It's some other type of account. It comes standard with if you have a YouTube channel, but I forget what it's called, but it has Google in the name. and it shows, it has like my records and stuff like that, but it won't show this channel as a secondary channel at all. It won't allow me to make this channel the owner. For whatever reason, I couldn't see it. So they're able to manipulate the computer system and stuff. They were real slick with what they did, guys. This is how evil what they're planning down the road, how they're going to use this artificial intelligence to cut people off from society, like during the lockdowns with COVID, how they weren't allowing people to go shop in grocery stores if you weren't vaccinated in New York, you know, heavily liberal places, or if you didn't wear a mask, to use the excuse that you're going to spread the virus. So this is what I'm going to lead to, the final warning, dissimilar, to try to stay on track. Alex Jones gave this morning a particular video I watched. It wasn't a long video, or if you want to find it, it's more recent. It's not a long time ago. I went to, every now and then, he puts out so much information. It's a lot to try to keep up with. By the way, he has other platforms that have their own independent platforms. So even if you don't like him, or whatever. So I had a friend that didn't some years ago that told me, actually originally put me up on him. Then some years later, he didn't like him anymore or whatever. And but he still will watch certain interviews when he interviews certain people that he brought on because he liked those people. So even if you don't like him, but just check him out, have an open mind. He has other people on there as guest hosts that share the similar information from different angles, because people minds are wired differently, the way people wake up, or I'm just trying to translate this basically like an interpreter, what I see. And I've been following him for a number of years. I purchased his supplements do work. I purchased a lot of his products throughout the years when I can afford it. You know, I'm on a budget, of course, like many others. I still punch a clock. I work a 9-to-5 job. So, and I spread the love. I know when he first started his products, where I remember he sold stuff prior to that, but I didn't start buying products until he partnered with Dr. Edward Group of the Global Healing Center, who I also have purchased products from, and I admire his products as well. I spread the love. I'm the type of guy, I've supported a lot of people, even in the Black conscious community, where I bought shea butter from grocery stores, or when I used to go to the mall, the Truth bookstore, I bought different books, Now Valley Contributions to Civilization by Anthony T. Browder. I have Historical Origin of Christianity by Walter Williams, who I found out is still alive, by the way, who Jordan Maxwell, rest in peace, reference to the book he did about the Islam. He did a book about Christianity. That's the one I bought from the Truth bookstore. So I've supported equally the Black conscious community. When I woke up to this information many years ago, I was double red pilled. I woke up to sovereignty and my true history and everything. I was really red pilled. So I had that moment like in the movie Matrix. You take the red pill, the blue pill. So I had a double whammy. I questioned my own religion, the way I was raised, what I was taught about Jesus, and I found out, I met historians. I found out about the concept of Asar, Aset, and Heru, and then later down the road, the concept of Horus, Isis, and Osiris. How there was previous civilizations had a story of the flood account. The Sumerian civilization had a story of Noah's flood. There were previous civilizations that existed. What they're hiding is the different timelines, the different time periods that existed. The Hebrew Israelites, the thing with them, they don't go as far back in time. Historian I studied under, and I looked it up myself and studied under another guy who used to do classes at the Northland Mall. Big shout out to Gennaro TV, who's very well studied as well, knows how they created the concept of Abraham. A lot of these things, they come from our Kemetic religion years ago. They were bastardized when a conqueror takes over a civilization. They take over the belief system. They corrupted the belief system. They replaced it with their own. Christianity was also used during slavery times to keep, when the evangelical movement broke out around the time that the slave revolts happened. I found out Nat Turner was a pastor, by the way, who led one of the largest slave revolt, Denmark Vesey. I don't know too much about Denmark Vesey. Then there was others who led slave revolts, and they used the evangelical movement because slaves, which I have ties in my family, part of my family, we weren't all Native Americans or Indians. The transatlantic slave trade was real. at a certain point, it runs parallel with the history of indigenous people over here. It runs parallel once again. We're not everybody is necessarily, when you have to study your own ancestry, genealogy, get a DNA test to be more accurate. But I found out, some of my roots. And yeah, one of my relatives on my dead side, they were owned by a slave owner. On my mom's side of the family, the Barham side goes back to slavery as well. One of my relatives fought in World War One. By the way, the little bit that I know, so there was a slave trade, and they also had breeding farms too. I just found out from the elder that's a historian. They were losing labor. That's why the South was upset, which was Democrat, the Dixiecrats. They retaliated, south of the Mason-Dixon line. Democrats controlled the South. You know about the Union, the history, Abraham Lincoln, Queen Harriet Tubman, Mother Tubman, General Tubman. She was made a general, by the way, in the Army. She also served as a medic. She not only rescued a lot of slaves, Harriet Tubman was tremendous. And the movie that Cicely Tyson played in was more accurate versus, I know with the Hollywood stuff, even video games, they're creating all this woke stuff, woke lies that's not giving an accurate depiction. And there was no black slave catchers. That's some bullshit they put in the newer Harriet Tubman movie. See if you can find the original Harriet Tubman, a woman named Moses, of that the actor Cicely Tyson played. She was a real queen, a real warrior. Not many have actually been able to emulate her in a true capacity. And black people were originally Republican. They were the abolitionists that fought to end slavery. Democrats were causing so much trouble that white and black people during that time period had to team up. And the Republican Party was actually formed as a result because Democrats were terrorizing people so bad. Look this up. This is why I went over earlier. When Obama was president, the DNC covered up the historical records that a Grand Wizard from the Ku Klux Klan spoke at the first Democratic National Convention. They were creators. That's why people say Democratic Party is the party of KKK, originally the party of slavery. Joseph Biden was friends with former plantation owner James Eastland out of Mississippi. By the way, look this up. He was friends with Strom Thurmond, a known racist, who I've heard rapper Killer Mike quote. Understand Biden was good friends with Strom Thurmond, as well as Senator Robert Byrd, who had connections to the MK Ultra Project Monarch that Kathy O'Brien from Muskegon, Michigan exposed. Her and Bryce Taylor were look their stories up. It's accurate information, guys. So I can't post the links for everything. I did give a disclaimer, but that's why in my disclaimer I say everybody has to do their own homework. But if you look up, fact check the information I'm going over, you'll find out how accurate the info is of what I'm going over, how powerful this is. And I know it's embarrassing, sadly, because the Democrats, they covered this up because it makes them look bad because they always, they make money like a lot of black nationalists. As they have to make sure there's a boogeyman because that's their revenue, just like the white supremacists do the same thing, which are controlled by some of the same sources at the top. A lot of these people, some of these people, you'll find out why black men that are Masons, how they secretly are friends with white people. Like the guy that snitched on me some years ago, the supervisor I got in trouble with, told me he was good friends with the guy that snitched on me, but yet the guy who knew me was pretending to be all pro-black. And this, I got your back, brother, and I'm, down for, for us, Hebrews, or African people, and turn around, and a white guy tells me I'm good friends. I'm not going to say the person's name, but the dot I connected, I read David Icke's book and was able to connect the dots and find out. I'm not saying all, but a lot of black men who were Freemasons, this is how they were able secretly, were meeting with white men. Because I heard many years ago, the Nation of Islam even secretly met with the Ku Klux Klan. But a lot of these people are controlled opposition. And I'm gonna say on the record, I'm not a member of any of these organizations. By the way, I didn't go through official initiation. I've told my story before through a lodge, through actual lodge. But you can say under someone else, I won't go into that story. But this is how I'm very well studied. But I found this out on my own. The person that initiated me, they were scared at first. They felt they wanted to protect my light. They wanted to protect me because they were afraid for me because they asked some questions. They were trying to figure out how I knew all this information. I explained to them how I learned this through the church. I studied. My mom taught me about the New World Order. She took me to the New World Order conference. back in October of 1996 in Allen, Lincoln Park, Michigan. That's where I got an understanding of, I saw Terry Cook was one of the guest speakers there. Joyce Riley spoke at the time. My mother told me I could either purchase. She only had enough money. I decided to get the book instead of the videotape, but Terry Cook was selling the VHS tape. Remember, VCRs were still popular, so I decided to get the book instead. And she got a book for my younger brother. He came. I don't remember how old my sister was. She was around at the time, of course. She was really young, if anybody was watching her, but she took me and my brother because that was her way, my mom's way of keeping me in a Christian church, keeping me, she saw I had an interest. When I asked her years prior, what were these comic books she was reading from the Bible bookstore that talked about the apocalypse, the four horsemen, which I didn't understand at the time, the New World Order, the one world government, the Antichrist, which they said his name would add up to 666 in numerology or gematria, I guess, by the way, which I've learned a little bit about. So that's where my understanding, I just took it further and found out how deep this stuff goes much further. And I was able to deconstruct and connect the pieces. That's how I'm knowledgeable how they have infiltrated. They use Freemasonry, different secret societies to infiltrate every organization because Freemasonry ranks higher than any fraternity at that level. There's the Knight Templars, from what I understand, have a higher rank in the pecking order caste system than Freemasonry. But I found out when I was in college, I was going to pledge to be a Phi Beta Sigma. They still recognize me as a brother, even though I didn't go through official initiation. I did go through the orientation meeting to find out what the requirements were, what they have to tell you. And there was a man that I was friends with at the time who was a traveling man. He was a Mason. And he told me what the other guy said, once you're a Mason, they have to go over this. You can still be part of the fraternity. But if I was an Alpha or if I was a Q Dog or part of any other fraternity, I couldn't be a Sigma at the same time. They had a rule. But they did have an internal chapter called something else. It was a business chapter at the school when it was Detroit College of Business at the time. I forget what it was called, that they said a lot of the guys, and it was like a pre-initiation to kind of help introduce you. I forgot what that chapter was called. They had a photo, but it was a business fraternity. So a lot of guys would join that first, maybe to get their feet wet, and then that would kind of help acclimate you for the other thing. So that's how I learned some of this information. I read books and stuff. I read David Icke's book, Children of the Matrix, helped me connect the dots. So I'm just saying, you know, those that accuse Alex Jones of being racist and a shield, I've heard it all. He said he's working for the Vatican. I don't believe none of that BS, or that he's Bill Hicks, a doppelganger, which is a very corny argument and a lie. I purchased his products. His products do work. They've helped me out. I bought his fish oil. I don't drink coffee anymore. I take his Super Male Vitality before I come to work, even though it's kind of on the expensive side, but it's helped keep me up to perform my duties, my patrols, things of that sort. So all those lies that BuzzFeed put out years ago that tried to discredit his products, and I heard how people would repurchase it and put some bad stuff in there and then resell it on Amazon and call it InfoWars. So you have to check, make sure you're buying what you're buying from his official website, InfoWarsStore.com, if you do decide to support him. But I'm here to testify because I heard Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum, mention he didn't know if his products worked or not. And I'm putting it on the record, since this is one of my last videos. I'm revealing more information for the first time ever that I normally don't go into details about. By the way, to put you guys up on how I do research and things. But here's the final warning. One of the warnings that Alex gave out, he stated that what the globalists are planning a major power outage, what I interpreted, and they're going to blame Trump supporters, which has been common, like they did in previous false flag attacks. They're going to blame patriots, or they may even blame, you saw them practicing sovereign citizens. They showed some years ago, it came out in the independent media, the military was running some type of drill in California. And the guy said in the drill, he said, I'm a sovereign citizen. So we could clearly see they were practicing drills to blame a particular group. Hitler historically did this, by the way. These are not nothing new. These tactics were used years ago. Now, I'm not a five-star historian, but you can look this up. But I heard Hitler made up the story when they burned the Reichstag or something, whatever it was called. My friend, who's a historian, told me about it. He's very well studied. Has like a miniature version of the Vatican's library. I call it the miniature. Vatican Library, a lot of plethora of books, way more larger, and he's older than I am, more well studied, he's been overseas before, and then can use that in his argument when he debates against different people. He's actually seen the pyramids before. A lot of people have never been over there. That trip is expensive, but that's something you can tote your horn, you can put on your resume. Kind of like when my friend mentioned he worked for Lockheed Martin years ago. As an analogy, he said once you get that on your resume, you can go anywhere. He worked with other scientists and people. Lockheed Martin is very prestigious aerospace company that makes designs, airplanes connected to Boeing, stuff dealing with the government. So my friend, to show this credibility, has been to overseas and shown me the tapes before, not just from his group, but others as well. And knows the name of ancient pharaohs and people who were indigenous who did exist. I've also studied a little bit of Dr. John Henry Clark's work, Dr. Amos Wilson, the geologist John Anthony West admitted the original Africans were black people, melanated people. Look up, he's a white geologist, one of the few to admit, a white historian, John Anthony West. Saw him mention it verbally, admitted the indigenous people, original Africans were black people. You know, like the movie 10 Commandments, you know, they try to lighten them up with the actor Charleston Heston. Those people in that time period wouldn't have been able to survive in that region of the world. And people they do lighten up over time, with scientists have proven, but they were heavily melanated. This is like the Aztecs, many of the ruins show people with the big nose, but those weren't white people. The white people generally have a more narrow nose. That's why black people, minorities' nose is thicker, bigger, things of that sort. When you get into the physiology, the algorithms of a person's face, their structure and things. But I'm just saying, I have evidence. So I study a multitude of information. It may not fit the narrative, but I'm very, very well studied. And Alex Jones put out this warning. They're going to plan a power outage down the road. This is huge. I gave a warning, and they're going to say it's a patriot or Trump supporter did it. They're going to have somebody stated what they're going to do. From what I remember, if they're successful, they're going to use this as an excuse for lockdowns again. They're going to say they're going to try to implement an internet ID and say, oh, you're not allowed to go on the internet because, remember, a terrorist hacked our system. I found out that's another excuse they use. Watch the documentary that Millie Weaver put out called Shadowgate. And then she did a part 2, the Shadowgate. Look it up. If you can't find it on YouTube, I think YouTube might have deleted part 1, but part 2, go to Millie Weaver. She used to be a reporter for Alex Jones. By the way, Millie Weaver is her name. She did a documentary called Shadowgate. Very accurate. And these people were contractors for very powerful people within the intelligence agencies for the government. She mentioned the apparatus. Remember years ago, this is proof now, fact check can't deny what I'm saying being inaccurate. Eric Snowden, remember he was a whistleblower for the NSA. And I saw that on Fox 2 News in Detroit some years ago while I was having my car worked on at a car shop when they had a TV in the waiting room and they aired the story. And I said, I can't believe this. They right on our local news, they did a story about Eric Snowden and said it's illegal for the government to spy on U.S. citizens, but why were they doing it anyway? They told you right on national local TV. I saw this. It's a true story, guys. I'm not making this up. They told you, said it's illegal, but they were doing it anyway. Under Obama's administration, I might add, by the way. Can you imagine all these things? So how can Trump be deep state or Alex Jones and they're exposing all this information, but you have certain people that did far worse? Man, all these criminal things happened under Obama's administration, and these people and Hillary Clinton is still walking scot-free. So I went over what happened to Ambassador Chris Stevens, Benghazi, Justice Antonin Scalia, Operation Fast and Furious, Anthony Weiner's laptop. Remember Obama misused campaign funds. Remember that was in the news. Spent over $250. And he even acknowledged I shouldn't have done that. Remember his attorney general that took over. Remember she admitted I shouldn't have met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. She found out people mentioned that was illegal, that was criminal. But did she do any time? Did she get in trouble for that? No. Like these people, see how all these things I mentioned, you can look them up. They're far worse than what Trump is being accused of. And presidents have access to declassified information. They had to make up something. And other people's homes got raided. Mike Pence, by the way, went through something, but they didn't go as far with it. That's how they can, use this classified thing to make something up to frame you. But presidents, they all normally had access to that type of information. If you all don't understand, they were allowed to take those files, and that's what Alex Jones explains in an articulate format. They had access to even Obama has records that were released. They have access to. So they're making this. They know most of the general public doesn't understand this type of information. These people are very evil. They can frame you. They can set you up. We're dealing with the apparatus. That's why I said this is a warning in a way. Look up John F. Kennedy, one of his last speeches, a warning that he gave. He mentioned how we as a people are opposed to secret societies. John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Look up that audio if you can still find it on YouTube, maybe on other platforms. A warning he gave before he was murdered, killed, by the way. And remember, the government worked with the Italian mafia at the time, was shined a negative stain, by the way. But to get back, Jones gave it this warning out. They're going to plan a power out, false flag. I'm telling you guys, this is what's coming. They may call it a cyber attack, and they're going to blame it on a patriot or Trump supporter, say that they did it. That's going to be the narrative. And he mentioned they're going to, after that, if they are successful, like some of the things they got away with COVID, and he said, right, soon as it goes black, the power goes out. He said they've got a list of names. This is the important part, most important part of the video. They've got a list of names, 10 to 30,000 people or more. They're going to go after those people like hit teams. He said some of them, they're going to use MS-13, I guess others. So he said, watch your six if you're highly trained or you have a channel, a gun channel that's been targeted, or you are conservative. I know Crowder was on a list. I know ABL was on a list. I could potentially have been on because my other channel I was being shadow banned. But he said, as soon as this blackout happens, they plan on sending hit teams to take these people, the so-called leaders out. He said he's on a list, even himself. He was specifically on Obama's enemies list. By the way, he's been targeted. I haven't talked about some of this information publicly because of what I went through some things some years ago, even just sharing his information. But I'm more well trained to deal with some of the things, and they will try to send someone on the inside. I do try to warn relatives and family members. These people we're dealing with, once again, they're using black people too, by the way. Black people that are listening, you got to understand, they're using our race. I do get that as well, even though they've done a lot of things, but they're using us as props. For example, like Florida, they're saying they weren't allowing critical race theory to be taught or black history, but they actually were planning. I found out specifically there was a journalist that went around interviewing black Floridians. They didn't know about this, but they were implementing transgender study, stuff that deals with LGBT stuff. They have nothing to do with black history. The show, they were using us as props, as a cover. This is how evil these people are. They weren't talking about like what I went over, how black people were originally Republicans. They had some woke stuff they created, like this Hollywood crap. And they're saying pushing the LGBT, which they're pushing this agenda in the educational system, the schools, and they weren't plan on teaching real history. So they're using black people as a cover. So this thing, the NAACP put out this travel warning for black people not to travel to Florida. Don't pay attention. That's BS. That's liberals were hypocrites. That's one of the states they were traveling to consistently because Florida lockdowns weren't as strenuous as New York. Remember, what's her name? That was part of the squad that went down there. She was caught with the actor Billy Porter. I can't think of her name right now. Ocasio-Cortez, something like that. She was down. Remember, they were traveling. They were hypocrites traveling. They would shit on Ron DeSantis in Florida, but they black ass, punk ass would be down there. Ask that question. Why New York had those tough ass lockdowns, but they was taking their black ass or they white ass to fucking Florida to celebrate, telling you need to stay inside indoors to keep the spread. Fucking hypocrites. Yeah. Why, excuse my French, but yeah, I'm trying to get you guys to understand is look through the bullshit. But the NAACP was started by the Jews, which one of my friends informed me. I still have yet to gather information. The Black Hebrew Israelites, one of the first black nationalist organizations to spy on other black people. And he secretly told me how they went to European Jews. He studied them very well. I'm gathering more information, but there's a connection. Many of them at the top are either wealthy or Masons, and some of them are connected to white Jews and some of these black nationalist organizations that are used to spy on other black people, by the way, and protect themselves through the secret society. But it's people waking up and finding out. So you're going to have a whole army of people that's not putting up with the bullshit no more. So make sure you guys, in case they try to take this video down, download this while you can, document this information. But read David Icke's book, Children of the Matrix, some of his other books I read. William Chernoblin's book, did a book I read called Beyond the Light. My mom, she took me to a Bible Prophecy Club meeting years ago. Well, he autographed my original book. I had to repurchase it because the person didn't return it, who was believed to be a Mason at the time, didn't return my original book that he did called Beyond the Light by William Chernoblin. You want to look that up. It was called Beyond the Light, by the way. So what Jones was mentioning, his final warning, major warning he put out, they're planning a power outage. They may say it was caused by a cyber attack. And remember, they already did this in other states. They've been hitting farms. It's not a coincidence, power facilities, and they're going to blame it on Patriots, Trump supporters. And he says, as soon as that blackout happened, they have a list of names. They're going to come send hit teams to try to take out. And watch the movie The Thinning, part 1 and 2. I told you guys about. I wish they had done part 3, because it would actually give you the answer to, I believe, how to defeat them when they showed the preview at the end of part 2. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but that's why I went over those Hollywood or those movies I recommend, independent movies, mainstream movies to watch as well, to help you connect the dots. And this is that's it, guys. So I'm getting ready. I've been before you all for quite a while. So that's one of the warnings he put out. But if you want to see that video where he can articulate it better than remember more of the thorough information, once again, Alex Jones put out a major warning. They're planning, he said this prior, the globalists are planning a power outage, maybe under this disguise of a cyber attack. They're going to blame Patriots. They may even use sovereign citizens. Remember that they have different tricks up their sleeve. They've got these Manchurian candidates already wound up off psychotropic drugs to do stuff. But watch your six if you're somebody that feels or knows you've been targeted. He mentioned names like Dana White, Joe Rogan. He threw a couple names. I would say Steven Crowder, Gavin McInnes, people who are conservative. They've even an FBI whistleblower came out, said Christians and conservatives are on an enemies list. By the way, if you're a Christian or conservative, you have certain values, you're on a target. There's a tier system. But he said, as soon as they do this blackout, he says, be warned. He said they won't be able to take everybody out if they are successful, but they're going to send hit teams. And he goes over the war game. He doesn't like talking about this stuff. But if you want to find the videos, band.video or madmaxworld.tv. Very powerful. So you have a heads up to prepare for what's coming down the road. And that's about it, guys. So I appreciate you all once again that continue to rock with the channel, that have supported me throughout the years, that watch my videos, where I get paid the little bit of AdSense revenue that I get. But it wasn't really that much, guys. If I showed you all, I wouldn't even make the payment threshold, which you have to make $100 per month in many cases. Lately, it started taking several months. And then I went over already how they allowed the guy who talks about the street life, the thug stuff, the criminal world, underworld, the black market or underground economy. He makes $8,000 to $10,000 a month. He mentioned it. So, but they won't allow channels like mine. So I will be in a position to leave this 9-to-5 job. Things of that sort. They made it hard. And then imagine what I went through with the Pastor Tony King seminars. You know, I was all the way, I got access to the black card and they cut us off. And they always make these excuses. But these people, I've experienced this. I tell a friend of mine all the time, these people are very evil. They're wicked. They're mean. They're demonic. And they want to kill us. Their goal is world domination. And just be warned. So this is the final frontier. This is the end. I'm signing out. This may be one of my last videos. This is the end of Dorsey's Resource channel. Basically fading to black. So until next time, appreciate you guys. I've hung in the fight for a long time. Before I go, I will try to read the rest of the comments. Read the rest of them. I'm still at work. I call the slavery plantation. Let's see here. The time is now. Let me see. I put it there 2:30. Okay, 2:31. I'm still here. So before I go, guys, I'm gonna read the rest of you guys' comments, and then I'm gonna sign out. But I was giving you guys, that's the final warning to go over the video I went over from Alex Jones, was on band.video, or go look it up, madmaxworld.tv, or simply check his InfoWars site. He also has another site called newswars.com, goes over the news information, not only InfoWars, but News Wars, to stay abreast of what's really happening. You know, they deconstruct. I'm acting as a translator to translate the information to people that are not in the know, that don't normally keep up, or those who've been on the fence about this information, whether this stuff is real or accurate. This applies to the black community. I know we've been done really wrong, but you know, it is for what it is. We have to take the lesser of the two evils. I call it the better option. We don't really have a lot of other options, because they kill a lot of the people in our community who would like Alex Jones. They killed Khalid Muhammad, others that will warn us, you know, for our people. So, but once again, I do support other activists and things of that sort. I do watch Roland Martin time to time, or keep up with the Rashad Ritchie show, which is under the Young Turks. I agree with some of the information. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a registered voter. I'm a common sense person, but I'm just putting out the warning that Alex Jones, like Kanye West had met with him, has been warning us throughout the years. And these globalists, these people do exist. They're ruling class elite with the Rothschild family. They're scumbags. They're very evil, along with the Rockefellers. And I'm not saying everybody in their family, entire family is. Remember, there's a pecking order. But the ones, if you studied their bloodline, their lineage, there's books and documentaries I've gone over, like Money Masters, Monopoly Men, Ring of Power, Empire of the City. That's a documentary you can still watch for free on YouTube. Ring of Power, Empire of the City. Check out the documentary called Conspiracy of Silence with what's the story of the boy that came up missing years ago, was kidnapped in a major child sex trafficking ring. Johnny Gosch, his mother Noreen Gosch, led to the modern day Amber Alert system. Credit Noreen Gosch. Remember, they used to put missing kids on the milk cartons, with Ted Gunderson, former FBI agent, field agent years ago, had discovered after he retired. He went into helping Kathy O'Brien, Bryce Taylor, and there was a guy named Mark, don't know his last name, who helped rescue, I think, Bryce Taylor or Kathy O'Brien out of the Project Monarch, aka MK Ultra. And Jim Jones, Jonestown, I put an elder up on this when I worked at an apartment building some years ago as a security guard. This guy named either Mr. Posey or Mr. Hosey used to sit in the lobby. It's now called the Solaire Towers. I used to work there back in 2005, right on Greenfield. It's right on the borderline of Southfield, Oak Park, Michigan area, back in 2005. And one of the residents that lived there, the elderly residents, used to come down and sit and talk. And I got to know them before I left there, him and Miss Sanders, because Mr. Hosey, it's either Mr. Hosey or Mr. Posey, kept bringing up this guy named Prophet Jones, or Preacher Jones, years ago, that was getting all these people to, I guess, join his church or this movement. And he was talking about the guy. I figured out from listening to him. I said, "Oh, you're talking about Jim Jones from the Jonestown Massacre." They used to make a movie about it when I was a little boy. My parents used to watch the movie. They used to air it on national TV. When I was a little boy, I used to ask my parents when they used to film the movie, the people that drank the Kool-Aid that died, and there were some men that escaped the jungle. I found out even some people that escaped and went on talk shows. They hunted them down and killed them because they didn't. That was actually a military operation. But Miss Sanders and Mr. Posey or Miss Massey, they were stunned when I shared this. I said, "Yeah, you guys are talking about Jim Jones. And I said, that's how I was able to help them connect the dots. I said, yeah, he was an operative for the government, a CIA. And that's a totally different person than Alex Jones, by the way, let me say, because people have tried to accuse even Alex of that. That's not the same person. So cut it out for the idiots out there. Alex Jones is not a government agent. He's not an operative. He's not working for the Vatican. That's some BS. But I'm talking about Jim Jones, a friend of mine who actually I found out years ago had a secret security clearance with the Air Force. Put me up on this. I didn't know this originally, and I stayed with this friend at one time in Warren, Michigan. A friend of mine, I won't say his name to protect his identity, but I found out he had a level 4 secret security clearance, and he put me up on this. I didn't know originally, once again, and I looked it up and said, whoa, this is deep, because I remember my parents used to watch this movie growing up as a child. So I have a real good memory. They used to show this movie like every year. Look up if they have it on YouTube. They had CBS did a documentary about it because he adopted some children. But the guy at the apartment building used to call him Preacher Jones. And I kept wondering, I said, who is this guy? He keeps mentioning the name Preacher Jones. And I figured, I said, oh, you're talking about Jim Jones, the guy from Jonestown Massacre, because there was congressmen that went down there, got killed years ago, named Congressman Leo Ryan. He came down there to investigate. There's allegedly some video footage of it because families were complaining that their family members were no longer communicating with them. They weren't able to get in touch. So they asked the congressman. So Jones pretended the day before congressman was set to leave. There's some more to it. You have to look it up. They murdered him at the airport, but they used government operatives. Jones had mercenaries. And I found out it was other government operations in this area, part of Guyana, this part of the world. I have to look up that region of the world. I've never really remembered what region, if that was South America, where that was at. But he had a church in California, and he used to have this thing where he was helping like the poor people, but he was luring them in. And eventually they went and they lived at a compound. And it was a military operation. It was connected to Project Monarch, like MK Ultra, CIA. This stuff is real. And some men, they went on a talk show, like you had talk shows years ago, like the Sally Jeff. Some of the people that went public that actually survived it were hunted down and killed because they didn't want them speaking about this story for whatever reason or sharing this. But that actually happened. Some older people may not even know the other part, but you can research it, by the way. So I've said a lot, a mouthful. So I'm going to read the rest of the comments I didn't read, and I'm going to take off. Hadruple Sosa in the building says, Brother Dorsey, appreciate you, Hadruple. Supreme El Bay says, damn, hate to see you leaving the platform, Brother Dorsey. I appreciate you dropping these Jews. You going in tonight, brother. Salute. You are a great researcher. Appreciate you, Supreme El Bay. Peace to the God. Peace. Says, yup, that was the speech addressing the press. Yup, that was referring to John F. Kennedy, that's last speech that he gave. Supreme El Bay says, yup, 100 big facts. Thank you. Appreciate you for confirming. Moon Peach says, Fahrenheit 411, internet blackout, erase it all, eliminate those with knowledge, resort the slave plantation. Okay. Hadruple Sosa says, I always watch Dr. Schnoebelen. Okay, you know about William Schnoebelen. Okay. Yeah, he wrote a book I got to help me connect the dots along with David Icke's book. William Schnoebelen's book was called Beyond the Light. I ended up ordering it off of eBay. And they sent the thank you letter in there. Whoever I ordered it from was appreciative. But if you're not familiar, William Schnoebelen was a traveling man. He mentioned one of his mentors was one of the hidden men that control each continent. He claimed he was a member of the Illuminati, because I remember when my mother took me to go see his meeting years ago. I don't know if that was in Romulus, Michigan, but that was under the Bible Prophecy Club, which Stan Johnson is still around. You can look them up on YouTube. We used to go to the meetings, and he spoke about his experience, and he became a born again Christian, gave his life to Christ. and told about his experience and how they used the secret societies to infiltrate. He was also a Mormon, part of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, because Joseph Smith, who was one of the founders of the Mormon organization, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, was a Freemason, just like Charles Taze Russell, who started the Watchtower Society, the Jehovah's Witness. So that's why I helped some guys connect the dots years ago, how Jesse Jackson was a 33rd degree Prince Hall Freemason. And a friend of mine told me he apologized on a Phil Donahue show some years ago, which is no longer on air anymore, about his participation in the Martin Luther King assassination years ago. Because, he was set to be, after Malcolm X was killed, they had like a leader in the Nation of Islam that came up, took over, stuff like that. A lot of these people, they're controlled, but then some people break out the matrix and they take them out. But they use operatives or people who are gatekeepers, Masons, people part of secret societies, to get close to these people that you might not be aware of, that will infiltrate and try to get you turned in or get you set up to be killed. So that's how I was able to connect the dots from William Chernobyl, and thanks to his research, Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tessarian, Alan Watt, thank you to his research. All these guys are phenomenal. David Icke has been phenomenal throughout the years. His book, Children of the Matrix, really woke me up. The Biggest Secret, I have that book as well. I have the book about 9/11. That book is another good book. Hadruple says they caught a few people already lurking around energy boards in California and Baltimore. Oh, wow. Yeah, I heard in different states. Yeah, they already were going after people that were messing with the power facilities. So, yeah, this stuff is real, guys. It's not no coincidence. What these people have been planning, what they have been doing, by the way. So I'm just reading the rest of these comments before I go. Let me write this patrol number down, log this down. Okay. So let me see. Yep, they caught a few people already lurking around the energy boards in California and Baltimore. Yep. So they are planning something. Once again, Alex Jones gave a major warning. So as soon as the lights go out, they have a list of names they plan on targeting, going after. They're going to try to kill, murder. They consider leaders of the movement allegedly. But he says they're not going to get away with this stuff more likely than not. They don't know what they're in for. So just be forewarned. They're going to blame it on a Trump supporter, or patriot, or sovereign citizen, and say that they did it. They're always going to make up. That's Hegelian dialectic, which is problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. In order to gain peace, you must cause chaos. Globalists are not stupid. The ruling class elite, who I did go over, Yuval Noah Harari, Klaus Schwab, these are real evil people. They want to kill us. This is not no joke. That's why they use entertainment, Hollywood, to distract you. Magic, Netflix, all that. That's part of their whole thing, to distract you. Also, divide and conquer, race. They always focus on the Mexican immigrants, but someone told me they have European immigrants that come from other countries, because a guy I know told me he worked with some of them. They don't focus on them. They always focus, for example, on the Mexican immigrants, but they don't focus on white people that are immigrants that come over here. So they're playing a game with everybody to divide people politically, socially. So I'm aware they use divide and conquer as well. Supreme Male Base says, thank you, brother Dorsey King. Appreciate you. Says Supreme Male Base says sleeper cells. Yup. They got a lot of sleeper cells. You got to watch out. They use they did the Black Panthers. They put in agents, operative. You got videos where the guy is admitting on YouTube how he was paid by the FBI to infiltrate those different organizations with Huey P. Newton and what's the guy out of Chicago that got killed by the Chicago police, Fred Hampton. So they have infiltrators and things of that sort. So just be aware, be prepared for what's coming. Get armed, have food stored up. Supreme Male Base says peace. Christy Abel says, I'll miss you, Dorsey. Thank you, Christy. Moon Peach says, the more they silence, the more come up. Yes, that's true. Facts. It's universal law, yin and yang. You know, one cannot exist. They think they're getting rid of one, but you know, there's going to be backlash to that. They don't understand that globalists are making it worse for themselves. Moon Preach says Jim Jones, Fauci. Yeah, Pete Fauci played a role. He's an operative. Yep, we know that. No, yep, no different. Moon Preach says Alex Jones has ties to Switzerland Board of Trustees for the United States Corporation. Well, what I know, what I think him for, I've seen in my personal experience, I don't think he's an agent. I've heard many people say that, but even if he's at that level, power to him, he has to have the level of protection while he's been able to survive as long as he has. But I know they've demonized him, and I feel, in my personal opinion, somebody that is a operative or agent, they're going to protect that person if they're a member of the deep state, because they're in power right now. Look at Biden; these people are corrupt. They found crack at the White House recently. Come on now. But Alex Jones has been transparent. I've seen his imperfections. He's so real. I mean, I've watched journalists and other independent people throughout the years. So even if he does have ties, so what? He's warning us, like Kanye West met with them. He's putting out the warning. So I question sometimes when people mention that, what do you have? Are you an agent? Do you have a stake in this to keep people brainwashed or conditioned? Because in my opinion, he's done nothing but help wake me up and others from what I've interpreted. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm just saying, you know, I don't buy that crap. He's an agent. My friend even said it. It's BS. It's, you know, it doesn't make sense, because if, like I said, I went over all the evidence earlier. If you're evidence, you're gonna be protected, you know, to a large degree. I'm talking about you're gonna have the top notch. They're not gonna be turning against you like they're doing to Trump. You know, he's not even disregarding his so-called presidential immunity. That's going far. Even Mike Pence, who doesn't get along, who's more of a member of the deep state that's connected to the Bushes, a neocon, even said he didn't like it when he saw what's going on, because that's an indication if they turn on one group to that degree, guess who else they're coming after? So that's what doesn't make sense, that Alex Jones can't be an agent regardless for them, because if you work for them, they're going to protect you. That's just my opinion. But thank you for that comment, Moon Peach. Hadrupo Sosa Marquez says Guyana was where Jones has his camp. Okay, that's what I thought of Guyana. I have to look up what region of the world that is. Hadrupo Sosa says supposedly they were white supremacists. Okay, I'm not sure which part of the conversation you were referring to. What point? Because I got to some of the comments at different times. What part you were referring to? Says, what platform are you moving to? Is your email still valid? Yes, my email is still valid. I can still log into that. It's just YouTube is blocking. When I try to log into my this account, I can't even log into this account studio, but it's linked to that email, j279dorsey@gmail.com. That was for this. I switched it. I don't use the other one that often. The other one is still active, Dorsey's Resource 2017@gmail.com. But I mainly periodically check more consistently my other email for serious inquiries only, by the way. And I'm on Rumble. To answer your question, I'm on minds.com. I have something on Brighteon, but I haven't finished uploading there. Says the Energy Raiders were supremacists. Okay, I'm not sure who the Energy Raiders are. I'm not familiar with them, by the way. Well, guys, that's my time. I've been before you guys for quite a while. Like I say, this is one of my last videos, if not my very last video, if I don't do the Zoom session, because my membership is getting ready to expire. So I've said I want to maybe do one more powerful, action-packed video through Zoom to go in, because I can do a screen capture and I can show my face, but I can share my screen and lay out what's been happening and go in just as hard as tonight. But with that said, I appreciate you all for joining, that rocked with me throughout the years at Dorsey's Resource. The marathon will continue. Legends never die. They live in our hearts forever. To you guys, adios. Arrivo Dirty. It's been fun spending time with you all. I appreciate the encouragement, the love. Those you all have met in person. And I'm out. All right. Take care, everybody. Stay up. Have a blessed, wonderful night going into the early morning. Peace.